while he's digging about in the undergrowth, trying to beat the woodland floor into submission so that there's no sticks or stones poking him in the back while he's trying to sleep tonight, and while it's absolutely hammering down outside, I decided to come in and have a chat with you all about the second most important piece of kit for the feral man. By the feral man, I mean the man or woman who has chosen or has been obliged to eschew living in a house and has to turn him or herself to the woods for shelter and a good night's sleep. The second most important piece of kit, if you remember, the first one was the bivy bag, and some might contend that the Basha is the most important piece of kit. I say it's the second most important kit, not by a very long margin, but it isn't as important as the bivy bag. So we're going to talk about Basha today, and I'm going to start off asking, what is a Basha and why is it called a Basha? A Basha is, or was, to those serving with the British Army back in the very early 1980s, it was a repurposed but in no way adapted army poncho. And its new purpose for the poor benighted paratrooper was to serve as a canopy beneath which he would sleep when opportunity arose, at every opportunity that arose. The only slight adaptation that was made to the poncho was that its neck was tied off in order to make its entire surface impenetrable to the rain. And the poncho, with its eyelets and little tags that were around and all over it, would serve as perfectly adequate shelter, which we can probably see in the background, starting to take shape, very shortly anyway. And we'll see also that the fabulously attractive Andrew is modelling for you right now. My goodness, he's devilishly handsome, that model, isn't he? Anyway, back to the etymology of the word Basha. It's Malayan in origin, and if you go online, you'll see that it stems from British Army usage during the Second World War in operations over in the Far East over there, and just one of many, many words that have been picked up from the various conquests and joint operations and just generally interfering with other nations around the world. It means, or meant, probably still means, small hut in Malayan, and I guess it just came to mean a shelter, and any portable shelter that was used by the army at that time and subsequently has been referred to as a Basha. It's synonymous nowadays with those of us who either like to go out trekking, or those few of us who just have to live outdoors every night. It's synonymous with the word tarp, which itself is short for the word tarpaulin, even though a tarp has nothing to do with tarpaulin at all. It's just a plastic sheet, which is quite strong and useful as a shelter. Okay, you can see here that our male model has set his Basha up at half-mast, so to speak. That's because he's seen that the weather forecast was fairly non-committal. It might rain, but it might not. It looks more likely it won't rain, but it might rain. So he's, just as I said, put it up, just half, put it up. He can snuggle under that, and if, as you can see now, it is starting to rain, and so he's just flopping down. If he can get a hold of it, he's flopping down the loose side. He's used the topography of the land very well, so he's out of the wind, and therefore he doesn't need to batten that side down. He just needs to flop down, keep the rain off him. So, well done. Sorted that one out. Okay, while Andrew, our woodlander, is setting himself up for the night, um, we can leave him to that while we indulge in what I suppose we could call Basha porn. We lovers of the Basha can think of nothing nicer, can we, than sitting back and looking at photographs. In this case, my photographs of my bashas, my various bashas that I've used over the last 8 years, where I've been sleeping out beneath said basha pretty much every day of the year, all year round. As I said, for the last 8 years. So try and be civilised. Sit there, enjoy, but don't get too excited. Right, stop, stop! It's enough. Too much of a good thing. Right, settle down, people. Okay, you Basher enthusiasts out there, you will have noticed that in spite of my many years, me being a veteran Basher person, you'll be wondering why I am so disregarding of using the correct camouflage pattern for the leaf environment. And the reason being is because it's vitally important, I mean vitally important, that I'm not too well concealed. I will go on and explain that in some detail very shortly. But first you need to know that almost all, I mean 98% of all my sleep sites, 60 or more of them, which I regularly visit throughout the year, they are acts of trespass. I'm not allowed there. I've not been given the landowner's permission to sleep there. He or she would be quite cross, I'm sure, if they found that I was sleeping there. So, though I don't want to attract attention, that is to say, I won't use brightly coloured canopies, and I won't use light, and I enter the land after dark, set up in the dark, no lights. I've extinguished my bicycle lights if I brought my bicycle with me, or if I, on the rare occasion I might need to use a torch while I'm walking, I will extinguish those lights some 200 yards at least before I actually approach the land that I'm going to go onto, the private land. Don't cook while I'm out there, don't light fires, don't bring any electronic equipment, most especially not my mobile phone. That stays back at my studio, and yes, and then I make sure I leave and get off that land at an appropriate time. That, surprised as you may be to hear this, is not necessarily, in fact, very rarely during the dark hours. And don't forget, I'm going there for a good night's sleep. I'm not intending to have a 6-hour sleep because that's all the night time will allow me, not, the dark hours will allow me. So emerging from my sleeping bag at 10 o'clock in the morning isn't unusual, and sometimes, well, always in my case, it tends to be the best time to emerge from the land. and I can explain that in other videos. We will go on to cover all aspects of living the feral life over the next year or so. Right then, which of you were checking out the model and which of you were looking at the slides as they went past? It's a very difficult choice to make, wasn't it? Both are wonderful things to behold. You will notice, those of you who are checking out the model, that he was being very enthusiastic and trying to eliminate one of the 5 deadly sins by putting a camo net over his Basha. The 5 deadly sins being, as I'm sure you all know, shape, shine, shadow, colour and movement. The Basha tends to shine. No matter how good a Basha you've got, whatever model you've got, it will shine, especially when it's been raining. I think dear Andrew was trying to, he was aware that he was being filmed and decided he was going to show his mettle by eliminating one of those 5 deadly sins. It's a mistake. Don't try too hard not to be seen. Use guile and intelligence to not be seen rather than actual physical camouflage. The guile intelligence, basically, know the land. Check it out. Check out the routines of the landowner. And especially if it's during the shooting season, there are night shooting parties sometimes. If you look at these thermal images that I've taken of the Basha with and without the camo net, you'll notice that the camo net actually camouflages quite effectively. If the camouflage net was bigger, it would cover the Basha very effectively and pretty much obliterates its thermal signature. If you look at it, if you look at this photograph where it's got no camo net on, it's just one great big black rectangle, unmistakable. But when it's got a camo net on, you can see only the heat signature of the heat that's coming from underneath, and that's pretty amorphous. It's broken up by the camo net draping over, and it could be a creature for all the shooter knows, or the huntsman knows. And if they're a newbie, inexperienced hunter, they'll want to bag something pretty soon and probably be a little less discerning as to what they shoot. It's an animal. Look, it's hiding in the undergrowth. Shoot it. So my parting words are, when I go out, I try to be not really noticed by occupying spaces which are pretty much left alone, and just in case I am out there when they're doing a shooting party, I want to be I want to be noticed at that point. So I hope any of you who are deciding to pack a bag and go out and do a bit of night camping, just take that into consideration before you go blundering into private woods.